All right, folks, let's talk elections. It's that time again when the nation comes together to decide its future. It's not just about the White House. While the presidential race often grabs the headlines, there's so much more at stake. In fact, one race could determine the direction of the entire country for the next 2 years. Control of the House of Representatives. This is where the real power struggle happens. Think of the House as the engine room of our government. It's the place where the gears of democracy are constantly turning. It's where bills are born, debated, and ultimately passed or rejected. Every piece of legislation starts its journey here. The party in control of the House has a huge say in what legislation makes it to the president's desk. They set the agenda and steer the national conversation. This year's House races are shaping up to be a nail-biter. The stakes are incredibly high and the competition is fierce. Every seat is up for grabs, and both parties are pulling out all the stops. Campaigns are in full swing, with volunteers working tirelessly. So, grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's break it down. The drama of election night is like no other, filled with suspense and excitement. The fight for the House is always intense, but this cycle feels even more critical. The balance of power hangs in the balance. Why? Let's dive into that next. We'll explore the key races, the pivotal issues, and what it all means for the future of our country. Control of the House isn't just some abstract political game. It has real-world consequences for all of us. The party in power sets the legislative agenda, meaning they decide which issues get addressed and how. Need proof? Look no further than healthcare or the economy. A Republican-controlled House might mean changes to Obamacare, while a Democratic House might push for more government spending on social programs. And it's not just domestic policy. The House also plays a crucial role in foreign affairs. They control the purse strings, meaning they decide funding for military operations and foreign aid. Bottom line, who controls the House impacts everything from your taxes to our relationships with other countries. This isn't just about red versus blue. It's about the future of our nation. You hear a lot about swing states in presidential elections, right? Well, in House races, it's all about the swing districts. These are the battleground areas where neither party has a clear advantage. Think of them as the tiebreakers. They can swing control of the House one way or the other. And let me tell you, these races are always intense. Swing districts are often very diverse. You might have a mix of urban and rural voters, different income levels, and various ethnic backgrounds. This makes for fascinating races where candidates can't just rely on one message or group of voters. One of the things I love about House races is getting to know the candidates. These aren't always household names, but they're real people with compelling stories and diverse backgrounds. This year, we've got some fascinating characters in the mix. In one swing district, a former teacher who champions affordable education is going up against a business owner focused on tax cuts. Another race features a young progressive, challenging a longtime incumbent from their own party. These are just a few examples of the exciting contests playing out across the country. Keep an eye out for more profiles coming soon. Section 5. Pocketbook Politics. What voters care about. Let's be real, folks. When it comes down to it, most voters cast their ballots based on what directly affects them and their families. And right now, there are some big issues hitting home. Inflation is a major concern for many Americans. Rising prices on groceries, gas, and just about everything else are putting a strain on household budgets. Candidates are feeling the pressure to offer solutions. Then there's healthcare. It's always a top issue, and this year is no different. Voters want to know how candidates plan to address rising costs and ensure access to quality care. These are just a couple of the kitchen table issues that could sway voters in November. Section 6. The stakes. What happens if? Okay, let's play a little what if. Imagine the scenarios that could unfold based on the results of the upcoming elections. What happens if Republicans win control of the House? This shift in power could have significant implications. Well, for starters, expect gridlock in Washington. The legislative process could come to a standstill. With a divided government, Republicans controlling the House, Democrats potentially still holding the Senate and the White House. it'll be tough to get anything major done. The clash of ideologies will make passing new laws a daunting task. Compromise will be key, but that's easier said than done in today's political climate. The polarization between parties has never been more pronounced. On the other hand, if Democrats hold the House, they can continue advancing President Biden's agenda. Think infrastructure spending, climate change initiatives, and social programs. These initiatives could see more momentum and potentially more funding. But even with a slim majority, it'll be an uphill battle. The narrow margin means every vote counts, and dissent within the party could derail plans. The point is, the stakes are incredibly high. Every decision, every vote, every debate will shape the future of the country. The outcome of these House races will determine the course of our nation for the next 2 years. The balance of power hangs in the balance, and the direction we take as a country will be influenced by these pivotal elections. Section 7. Upsets and Underdogs. Polling Surprises. Now, for you political junkies out there, let's talk polling. It's a snapshot in time, but it can give us clues about the race. And this year, we're seeing some interesting trends. In some traditionally safe districts, polls are showing surprisingly tight races. This could be a sign of shifting demographics, changing voter priorities, or simply a strong challenger exciting the base. Remember, polls are just a starting point. The real action happens on Election Day. Section 8. Red Wave or Red Ripple. The GOP scenario. Let's face it, the historical trend is not in the Democrats' favor. Historically, the party in control of the White House often loses seats in the House during midterm elections. This pattern has been observed time and again, making it a challenging landscape for the Democrats. The party in control of the White House often loses seats in the House during midterm elections. This phenomenon, known as the midterm curse, has been a consistent trend in American politics. So, can Republicans ride this wave to victory? It's certainly possible. With the right strategy and messaging, they could harness voter dissatisfaction and turn it into electoral gains. If they can capitalize on voter anxieties about the economy, which remains a top concern for many Americans, they could make significant inroads. Inflation, which has been a persistent issue affecting everyday life, and crime, which has seen a rise in many areas, they could see significant gains. Political analysts are closely watching these factors as they could be pivotal in determining the election outcome. A red wave scenario would give them a comfortable majority in the House, allowing them to push their legislative agenda with greater ease. And a strong mandate to push their agenda. This would enable them to implement their policies more effectively and counter the Democratic initiatives. However, a more likely outcome might be a smaller red ripple. While a sweeping victory is possible, the reality might be more nuanced. Republicans could still flip enough seats to take control, but it might be a narrower margin than some predict. This would still be a significant achievement, but it would come with its own set of challenges. A slim majority would require careful navigation and strategic alliances. This would make governing more challenging, as a smaller majority means more negotiation and compromise, requiring them to work across the aisle on some issues. Bipartisanship would become essential, and the ability to find common ground could define their success. Section 9. Holding the line. What a Democratic win means. It's an uphill battle, but Democrats defying history and holding on to the House isn't out of the question. They're banking on high voter turnout, especially among young people and minorities. They're also hoping that recent legislative victories, like the infrastructure bill and efforts to address climate change, will energize their base. A strong focus on issues like abortion rights and gun control could also mobilize voters. If Democrats manage to keep control, even by a slim margin, it would be a major victory for President Biden and allow him to continue pursuing his agenda. Section 10. Election Night Drama. Buckle up. So there you have it, folks. The House races are going to be a wild ride. We've got swing districts, compelling candidates, and major issues at play. As we get closer to Election Day, keep an eye on those polls. But don't be surprised if there are some upsets and unexpected twists along the way. That's what makes election night so exciting. One thing's for sure, every vote matters. So make sure you're registered, know your polling place,